So then, let us go back to the idea of the first component of physical reality, the first component of the personality, the belief system. Once we have then reviewed and understand the techniques for transforming the personality components, we will then step forward toward how to use this with regard to the vibration of excitement. Once we have reviewed the personality, we will move on to the idea of excitement. Of course, excitement will be contained throughout the discussion because it is always very exciting to learn how to use a tool and see a result. So, manifesting your dreams, manifesting your excitement. Belief. Again, belief is a definition. Let's use the analogy of a house. You're going to build a house. That is your physical reality that you prefer. That's your dream. Belief is the blueprint of the house. Emotion, just to move ahead for a moment, are the builders of the house. Thought patterns are the building materials that you are using. So, you can understand that the quality, the precision of the blueprint is important. The quality of the builders is important, and the quality of the building materials is important in order to have a high quality house. So if the blueprint is not well drawn, if the builders are lazy, if the building material is rotting and falling apart, the house will not stand, it will collapse. But if the blueprints are well drawn and the builders are energetic and the building material is first class, the house will be beautiful and stand for a long time. So, again, belief, the definition of reality. This is like an equation, like a mathematical equation. This equals that. So when you have a certain belief, what you are doing is creating a certain formula for the kind of reality you say it is most likely you will experience. So let's start with some simple beliefs so I can use that as an example of what I am talking about. Here is one that is very popular on your planet. Success is difficult. That's the equation. Success equals difficulty. If you have been taught to believe that it is difficult to create success in your life, then you will constantly create patterns and situations that prove the equation. You hear mathematicians talking all the time about finding proofs for their equations. Well, that's what life is. Life, the reality you experience, is the proof of the equation you have in your belief system. This is why it is so important to understand what physical reality is in terms of reflecting your beliefs to you. Because physical reality is just a mirror reflecting to you your strongest beliefs about what you think is true. Reflecting your strongest beliefs back to you about what you believe is possible for you. This is how to use your life and the circumstances that happen in your life in a positive way to put you in touch with your belief. Physical reality is very much like, literally, a mirror. So if you are having a sad life or a sad situation, it's because it's reflecting back the sadness that you are putting out. It's just like the mirror that you look at yourself in the morning. If you see a sad expression on the face in the mirror, you don't try to touch the face in the mirror and make the reflection smile. You know you cannot change the expression in the mirror out there. You know the only way to change the expression in the mirror is to change the expression on your face first. So, because physical reality is literally a mirror, it works the same way. If you see something out there that you don't prefer, you cannot really force it to change by working outside yourself. You have to change what's inside in order to see a change outside. Because outside doesn't really exist. It's an illusion, a reflection. Just as you know, the person you see in the mirror isn't really over there. All the light is going to the mirror and bouncing back to show you the person in the mirror is really here. So when people on your planet project their problems onto other people or blame other situations for being responsible for how they feel, out there, that's not really where it's coming from. It's coming from here. But this is the beauty of physical reality functioning like a mirror, because it always turns you back to yourself. If something is going on in your life that's not the way you prefer it to be, then physical reality is beautifully showing you there is something you need to change in your belief system in order to make the change happen out there. And the first level to always check is the belief system. You must find the equation, how the equation is written that would create that kind of an effect in your life. The way to do this is simply by asking yourself the following question. What would I need to believe in order to experience what is going on out here in my physical life? Again, please remember, there's a difference between the idea of struggling and suffering and simply experiencing a challenge that is exciting. Challenge is positive. Suffering is negative. So make sure, first of all, that you're not just referring to the idea of challenge. You will always have challenge because challenge helps you stretch and grow. But when you stay in positive belief, the challenges will also be exciting. But if you find yourself struggling and suffering as you unfold your life, then let your life reflect to you that there must be an equation within your belief system that says life must be a struggle. When you discover what the equation is, then you can move to step 2. So step 1 is finding out what the belief is, what the equation is, such as success is difficult. Now, once you have identified the equation, the belief, the definition, something very magical happens. Perhaps for a long time in your life, this definition that has been unconscious within you has felt very powerful because the struggle in your life feels very real and very powerful. And one of the reasons sometimes that it may seem difficult to change is that because when you do hold on to a belief, it generates energy, it generates power. And most belief equations contain a very specific variable or factor. Most beliefs, when they are in place, appear to be the only belief possible. Many beliefs, when they are firmly lodged in your personality structure, make it appear as if no other belief is possible. There is only one exception to this, and that is the fundamental belief that all beliefs are equally true and equally possible. But if you don't have the belief within you that all beliefs are equally true and equally possible, then each other belief will make it seem as if no other reality is possible. And this is what makes it seem more difficult to change your belief and change your reality. It isn't more difficult, it just makes it appear more difficult. But the reason that this factor exists is so that when you do choose a belief, you'll be able to focus on that reality without worrying about slipping out of that focus. It's like an automatic mechanism, so you don't have to constantly think about holding on to that belief in order to have a certain experience. But if you understand that that's how belief is structured, then it is easier for you to change that factor, to unlock that factor and unlock from any particular belief. And the technique for unlocking from any belief is what we have just said. The first step, you must identify the belief. You must use your reality to reflect to you what belief you would have to have in order to experience that reality. But here is the thing that is powerful and magical about identifying the belief. As soon as you are aware of what the belief is, as soon as you have identified it, the belief now becomes neutral. It has no more power. You do not have to do anything extra or anything special in order to depower or turn off that old belief. Identifying it is enough to switch it off and make it neutral. So now you can understand that belief has no more power at all right at that moment when you are holding it there in your thoughts and you are aware of what it is. Any tendencies or habits that were connected to that belief have now been neutralized. If you keep doing the same thing from that point forward, it's not because it's a habit, it's because you are now choosing to do that again. Because remember, a habit is something you do that you don't know you're doing. Once you know you have the habit, you don't have it anymore. People on your planet have been taught to believe that when they discover they have a particular habit, then they think they are just at the beginning of a process that they have to figure out in order to change that habit. But it's just the opposite. The recognition that you have a habit is the end of the process. At the moment you realize you have the habit, in that moment you do not have the habit. So, just like belief system, you've identified the belief, it is now neutral. You no longer have that belief, it's unplugged. So remember this motto: identification equals neutralization. Alright, so now this belief, our example, success is difficult, has now been neutralized. It's just floating there in your imagination doing nothing. So what's the next step? The next step is to create a new belief equation, to replace the old one with a new equation. So let's use a new example. The new example might be, success is effortless. If that is the equation you prefer, and you can take time testing out different ones until you find one that feels very exciting, feels just right. But once you have found it, let's say again, for example, success is effortless. Then in your imagination, see the two equations next to each other. Right now, they're both neutral. On one hand, you can see the equation, success is difficult. On the other hand, you see the equation, success is effortless. Now, see yourself literally unplugging the old equation as if it were stuck in some kind of prong or plug. Unplug it from your personality. Put it in your box of equations that you are no longer using. It's like replacing an old light bulb. You have unscrewed the old equation because it's burning you out. Throw it in the recycling bin to be smashed and recycled into something more positive. Take the new clean light bulb of your fresh, new equation. Success is effortless. Screw it in to the socket. Then, flip the switch on and watch it light up. It's now in place. Feel your energy begin to rise as you put more emotion and energy into the fact that you love this new equation. You become excited. Here's where excitement comes in. You become excited about the fact that you now have this new, beautiful equation and you no longer have the old one. Now you know the new equation is in place, it's turned on, and it's shining brightly. The next step, then, is to look around at your life, and out of all the things that you are capable of doing at that moment, to pick the one that has the highest degree of excitement. Because the thing now out there that has the highest degree of excitement for you is showing you that your new belief equation is shining like a spotlight right on that thing. Because the new equation was created and energized and activated by your excitement. It now is the vibration that will link to all other excitement in your life and show you the way to go. And as soon as you have changed that belief, you will also feel the effect cascading down, reverberating through your entire personality structure. The emotions will change, the thought patterns will change, your behavior, your actions will change, all from the change of that one little negative belief. And then as you take action in that way, with the new personality structure, your life will reflect that total change to you. However, do not fall into the negative belief trap called judgment and expectation. What this means is as follows. Many people will go, well, I've changed my belief, but I don't see anything outside in my life really changing. It doesn't look any different. once again understand the nature of physical reality. All circumstances and situations in physical reality are fundamentally neutral. They do not have built-in meaning. A particular situation can create a positive or a negative effect. Any situation can actually create either a positive or a negative effect. The effect that you get out of any given situation is completely determined by the energy you put into it. If you put positive energy into it, if you understand that the situation is there for a positive reason, you will only get a positive effect from it no matter how it looks. So let us say you have come out of a situation that you were feeling a negative effect from, and then you change your belief about that circumstance and situation. And then you go back into the situation, but on the surface, nothing looks like it's changed. Do not despair and say, oh, nothing out here changed. That must mean I didn't really change my belief. It's how you behave toward the situation that determines that your belief has changed, not what the situation looks like on the surface. When you trust, when you know you have changed your belief and you act differently within the situation, then even though the situation may look the same, you will get a different effect from the situation. It is quite possible that the exterior situation may change its appearance to reflect the change within you, but it may not. You have to remain true within yourself to know you have changed and act like you know you have changed, and then you will get a different experience out of the very same situation. And here is the paradox. Here is the irony in this idea. Because if you look at the situation outside and say, that means I haven't changed because it didn't change, then you haven't changed. In other words, if you're still relying on outward appearances to decide whether or not you have changed, then you really haven't changed, and it is reflecting an accurate picture to you. But when you know you have changed, and you accept that even though the thing may look the same, you still believe you have changed, then you give the situation the greatest possibility of actually changing its outward appearance. But first, it's almost like you are testing yourself to see if you really believe you have changed by being given exactly the same situation again, to see if you're going to act differently toward it. So when you do behave differently toward it and get a different effect from it, then you have proved to yourself that you have changed, and then the outward situation may change its appearance to suit the true change that you now know exists within you. But as long as you wait for your outer reality to change in order to believe that you have really changed, then you haven't really changed. And now you have the tool and the technique for transforming your belief and your reality. So it really is this simple. Use what is happening in your reality to show you what kind of a belief you would have to have in order to generate that kind of reality. Use what is going on in your outer reality to reflect to you what kind of a belief your personality would have to have in order to generate that kind of reality. Identify the negative belief you have had like it's an equation. Know at that moment that you have identified it, it has lost its power, it's neutral. Create a new definition. Take out the old definition, put in the new definition. Energize the new definition with your excitement that there is a new definition. Look out into your life and see what it is that excites you the most and take action on that. Every single time you run into what seems to be another fear, another obstacle, do this technique over again and find out what that belief is that you don't prefer. The more you practice this technique, the faster you will be able to transform your beliefs. It will become eventually automatic. You'll be able to identify negative beliefs very quickly, just make them disappear, automatically replace them, move on. All the while knowing, this is who I am, this is what I prefer to be, because I deserve unconditional love, and my reality is full of magic. And why can I believe this? Because creation has given me the power and the right to determine to choose what is right for me. And nothing and no one has the power to change that but me. That is the gift of unconditional love that I have been given from creation. Creation loves me so unconditionally that it will even allow me to believe that I am not loved. Creation will allow me to believe that I am not loved. It will even allow me to choose that belief. That's how much creation loves me unconditionally. It will support me whatever I choose to believe. Even if I choose to believe I am not loved, it will still support me. It will actually allow me to have that belief. So if creation is so unconditionally loving that it would actually allow me to have the belief I'm not loved, then I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it will support me if I choose to believe that I am unconditionally loved. So when I choose to say I am unconditionally loved, my life is effortless, my life is magic, my life is creative and exciting, it allows me to choose that and will completely support me in that choice. And when you really know that, you are free. And your personality construct is completely in harmony and balance. And you understand the big picture of how everything works together in harmony. And the light that shines brightest in your life are the things that contain the highest love, the highest joy, the highest excitement. And you will understand that that is your true vibration, the vibration from which you were created. And so that vibration in you will attract all other such similar circumstances and situations and vibrations in your life. Acting on your excitement at any given moment to the highest degree you are able to act on it is filling your purpose and your destiny in life. Whatever way that chooses to express itself creatively is completely up to you, because that is the gift you have been given from all that is.
I don't say let us continue with this transmission. Now, did you enjoy your refreshment break? Yes. All right. Let us continue this transmission in the following way. We will discuss at the moment a few different kinds of things. This is all lumped under the idea of our title, Today is Yesterday's Tomorrow. That meaning that all time is one, it is all here and now. And what we will speak about that regards the concept you call the future is, nevertheless, I remind you, actually existing in the present, and that there is no such thing as a prediction of the future. Once again, we say there is only the sensing of the energy that exists at the present time the prediction is made. That is what is being sensed, is the present energy. If that energy does not change in any significant way, then what has been sensed is representative of that which will unfold and manifest. If, however, the energy does change, which is sometimes changed by the prediction itself, then the energy may take a different course and something different will occur. This does not mean that any kinds of predictions are necessarily wrong if they do not come to pass. It may simply be that they were sensing an energy that has changed, since all predictions are of the present energy. The reason that this is so is because empirically, fundamentally, there really is no such thing as the future, just as there really is no such thing as the past. Everything is simultaneously coexistent, and you cannot actually prove the existence of either the future or the past. But wait a minute, Bashar. We have evidence from the past. Do you now? And exactly where is that evidence? Oh, here in the present. That's correct. And that's the only place it exists, is in the present. And what you call the past is simply another dimension, a different frequency, a different wavelength of experience that exists right now alongside your own present. There may be a cross-connection of continuity being made to make it appear as if there is a linear connection from past to present to future. But that continuity connection, that continuity illusion, is being created from the present, always. So when you say, here is evidence of the past, what you are saying is, you have created a linkage, a bridge, a connection, to a simultaneously concurrent reality in such a linear space-time manner as to create the illusion of cause and effect, because it serves a purpose for you to experience the idea of the process of creation from a beginning to an ending. That's all you're doing. But there is no actual proof of the existence of the past, because there is no such thing. That is why it is also easy to cross-connect to other lives, because they all exist now. And thus then, if it truly was that they were in the past, or truly was that they were in the future, you would not be able to really make that linkage. There is only one moment. It is now. Everything happens in the now. Everything that appears to be a different moment is actually a different perspective of the same now. A different point of view, a different angle, a different picture, a different photograph. But it is all part and parcel of the same infinite now, in which everything exists and everything occurs. So, in terms of what we are about to say about things that may unfold, again, remember, we are reading the energy as it exists now. But it is always your world and always your choice to allow the momentum of many of these things to continue, to allow the inertia of many of these things to unfold, or to choose a different course and create a new reality experience that you can shift to. When we talk about the idea also of everything being now, the idea again is to remember, or we would like to reinforce the notion that you keep in mind that all changes are total changes, in the sense that you shift from one reality to another. You shift, in a sense, your point of view, because you already exist in all the realities that you're ever going to exist in. So it's not even a matter of actually changing from one reality to another. It's an issue more of closing your eyes, closing your focus in one reality, and opening them in another in which you already exist, or at least a version of you does. The idea of changing is never that you will change anyone else, never that you will change the world, not even in a sense that you'll actually change yourself. It is simply that you shift to a reality whose vibration is already reflective of the reality vibration you now prefer, and start looking with your consciousness through the eyes of the version of you that already exists in a reality reflective of what that version of you represents. So you have never changed anyone, never changed the world. The world that you used to look through the eyes of still exists, always will, and will always experience itself as it is. But you can experience a new earth, a new reality, depending upon your vibration. And that's why we say, all you have to do to change the world is change yourself. Because you will never actually change the world. You will only change from one perspective to another. But that will appear and feel and be experienced as a new world. And all the individuals who have representations in that world, you will experience. Individuals who do not have representations in that world, you will not experience. It is as simple as that. For a while, you may continue to experience the idea of people who have representational vibrations that are not necessarily fully aligned with the world that you prefer. But that's also because you are not fully aligned yet with the world that you prefer. And so there will be, as you say, a potpourri, a mixed bag for a while, and you will still for a while be capable of experiencing people who do not necessarily vibrate in accord with you. But that's still for the purpose of giving you the option to reflect off of them what you are by seeing what you are not. For many of you still understand what you are in that way. But the more and more you understand who you are for its own sake, without necessarily needing to see a counter offer of what you are not, more and more of you who do not need that will no longer see that. You will simply find yourself one day interacting pretty much only with the individuals who are similar in nature, similar in vibration. And you may scratch your heads and wonder where all the other people went. But they will still be on the world that you no longer look through. And they will still be living their lives as they wish to, as they have chosen to. And it's as simple as that. And neither, in terms of validity, is more important or better or right or wrong than the other. They are all part and parcel of the infinite choices within all that is. Allow them to all be valid. Allow all to make the choices that they need to make. And by doing so, it will be that much easier for you to allow yourself to experience the reality that you prefer. Now, as we read the energy now, many things are changing, many things are shifting, and this is what we perceive at the moment. You have begun to experience the breakdown of some of your economic systems. You have begun to experience some shifting in your political worlds. This will continue. And again, as we have always said, the idea is not to change the old systems, but to have new systems in place, ready to go when the old systems fall apart. That will be part and parcel of taking action in the new world, in the new way. Creating that vibration that is representative of the reality you wish to take yourself to. So that when you shift, and in that shift, experience the old ideas falling away, falling apart, crumbling all around you, you will have the capacity to attract to yourself new systems, either invented by you or others that you will attract yourself to be able to facilitate the new ideas, the new perspectives, the new ways of doing things in the new reality you will have shifted to, which can then be implemented rapidly. Now, as it stands in this moment, what you are doing with your economic structure may carry you for about 5 of your years. Then there will be what you call another collapse. But at that time, in 5 years, there will be other systems that can rapidly replace what has then been washed away. So, do not fear. Never approach these things with fear, for that will determine what reality you experience. So obviously what we are perceiving and what we are sharing with you is part and parcel of the reality, of the vibration of your preferred reality, which does not mean there will not be change. Sometimes even very dramatic change. But remember, as we said, an event is not an event until you have responded to it. So the idea is not so much exactly what happens, but how you respond to it that makes it the event you will experience it to be. So respond well to all these things, and they will serve you well in the new reality. Respond negatively, and that's the reality you will remain in. So in 5 years, you will see, most likely, the opportunity to reinvent some very fundamental economic principles on your planet that will begin to take you, not right away, but will begin to take you toward an understanding of the true worth and the true value of the individual members of a society, which will ultimately lead to an economy actually based on the actual skills and talents of the individuals in a society, which will be in that context uncorruptible. The idea in that sense will be that as you approach the concept of a global organization, it will be one that allows borders and barriers to be crossed and to be dissolved, because it will be the skills and talents of individuals that will cross those borders to be of service to others who need their services. And as you begin finding more and more teams of individuals being sent around the world to aid and assist those that require their assistance, you will suddenly begin to see the threads being woven of the tapestry of a new economy. And bit by bit, within a few decades, you will realize that no longer will you require an artificial symbol to represent the idea of value and exchange. The exchange between people will be sufficient. And the reason that this will work is because it will also go hand in hand with the idea that within the next 2 or 3 decades, you will also create the idea of absolute, unlimited free energy. And once you achieve that, you will find that almost nothing stands in your way of becoming a unified society. Now, between now and then, there may be a few interesting surprises. Again, as we have talked about, more and more will be there an increase in the awareness of the existence of extraterrestrial societies, beginning on and around your year of 2015. There will be more knowledge that such things exist. And again, as it expands, ultimately to your year of 2033, when it will be, in that sense, open contact that will have occurred between your civilization and the first civilization to make open contact with your world, that we in our ancient language have called the Shalanaya, but which they in their own language are called the Yael. You will see more of their ships here and there, and they will become more and more blatant, allowing you the opportunity to respond in a manner that allows your society to know that you are ready more and more every day for such open communion, open contact with other civilizations. This, of course, will be based on the idea that you're ready and willing for open contact among your own civilization, among yourselves, among your own people. The willingness to take the actions necessary to receive the downloads and take the actions necessary to create more expansive systems, more expansive opportunities, more expansive services, more expansive inventions, more expansive awareness about the nature of the structure of existence, and apply that in your day-to-day reality. Politically, you will find, over the course of that same 3 decades, many new changes will come about. Somewhere after your year of 2025, but before your year of 2033, it is quite likely, as we read the energy now, that there will be formed for the first time what you call a North American Union. Similar in some senses to what the European Union is attempting to do, but it will be slightly different. And more of these large conglomerate unions will begin to appear around your planet until such time as after 2033 they can be linked and unitized in large conglomerate sections, which ultimately then, over time, will lead to a coordination and an organization that will be global in nature, but will be of service that benefits humanity. One moment. As has been said, opportunities for sightings will increase. More downloads will occur, that contact is imminent. The literalness of the sightings may or may not occur in your upcoming next couple of days, and also again in February of your new year. One moment. To allow for some of these transitions to take hold, take root, without our interference, we will once again go offline for the transition of your present to new year. Somewhere in and around your December 15th, and we will reconnect once again after your new year has begun. One moment. The channel and the original agreement that was made within the oversoul, of which he and I are aspects, was that there would be a delivery of information for no less than 9 of your orbits. We are now approaching a time in what you call 2 orbits that will represent 3 times the original agreed upon amount. Once it reaches its 27th year, it will then take a different form for the next 3 years thereafter, until your year of 2013. We will not instruct at this time what this different form will be, but it will be by our calling alone in terms of how it shall occur. In the manner of the channeling as you understand it now, to no society to whom we have channeled does any channeling in one form last more than the length of an Sasanian lifetime. But because our dimension is 10 times faster than yours, our lifespan of 300 years translates into your reality as 30 years. So when the 30th year occurs in 2013, there will be a transition of how this information is delivered. There will be a transition, as we said, in the 27th year. There will be a difference in the last 3 years until the 30th year, and after that there will be a complete transformation of how this information is delivered. But it will go hand in hand and be part and parcel with many of the changes that are upcoming, and will represent many of the new systems that are required for implementation in terms of the educational systems on your world. And it will dovetail, as you say, into some of those educational systems and lay the foundations for new interactive educational systems that shall be widespread in the years to come after 2013. One moment.
I will say good day to you all. We thank you for the co-creation of this interaction and for allowing us to transmit to you in this way our perceptions, our perspective of various ideas, various concepts that we will now discuss. Let us begin by allowing yourselves to relax and allow yourselves to simply, naturally, easily, and effortlessly absorb the following information that we shall entitle, as you say, to you, to use, in whatever way your imagination so desires, and which you shall entitle yourselves to use, in whatever way your imagination so desire, the following information that we shall title This and That, which shall be subtitled The Spectrum of Reflection. This and that. We have many times in our transmissions to you talked about the state of being that we find many of you have been operating in for many years based on certain belief systems that you have been taught, based on certain definitions that you have been brought up with, based on these beliefs and definitions that you apply to many given situations in your lives, that you will more often than not, based on these beliefs, look at situations and apply to them this or that. You will see things as this or that, as that or this, when in most situations you would actually find greater benefit and greater understanding and greater facility in transforming the situations into the effects that you prefer by addressing the situation from the perspective of this and that. Because all things exist at once, and even though we understand that by having a certain frequency, by having a certain definition, that you will experience one thing or another, we are not attempting in this understanding to eliminate the idea that you are experiencing one thing at a time. However, in many circumstances within the thing you are experiencing, within the situation that you are experiencing, it actually does not help you to further break down that experience into a this or that situation. Because when you do, you are not allowing yourselves the benefit of the unifying principle of the positive and constructive energies and states of being that would give you an understanding of how to allow the circumstance to serve you in a positive way. Because by addressing it, by perceiving it, by viewing certain circumstances and certain options within circumstances, and as you view certain qualities within certain circumstances as a this or that situation, you create and set up for yourselves a dichotomy, a polarity, a conundrum that does not allow you a holistic, big picture view of the circumstances to the degree that would allow you to understand how to transform things into the effects that you desire, into the effects that you prefer. By breaking down certain circumstances into this or that situations, you limit yourselves and create negative energies, negative states of being that allow you to become confused and caught up in certain kinds of repeating loops. Because on one hand, the higher mind will sense that everything is a this and that circumstance, that you always have the option of accessing any and all opportunities within any given scenario. While the physical mind, limited by certain belief systems and definitions that you've bought into that are not aligned with your preferred self, that are not aligned with your true vibration, will perceive things in this puzzling, paradoxical, shall we say, polarity, polarized kind of way, where it can only be one way or another. And thus then preventing yourselves from being capable of seeing and experiencing a much broader perspective, a much bigger point of view. And limiting the options available to you by assuming that if one thing is this, that it can only be this, and that it cannot contain the other. This is where you begin to learn how to use paradox in its most beneficial form and not in its negative form. How you learn to balance polarity in its most positive way and not experience the results of the negative interpretation. This or that perspectives will only allow you the limited ability to perceive whatever opportunities, doorways, whatever, shall we say, options are available to you that are connected to the thing that you are focusing on, and will not allow you to experience the opportunities that are available to you with its polarity, with its polar opposite, by eliminating the connective energy of and by thus then focusing only on or circumstances in an or mentality, a this or that mentality, you truly prevent yourselves from expanding your consciousness and from seeing things from a broader point of view, a broader perspective. And you actually shut the doors through which different inspirations, different imaginings, different perspectives could come to you, because you are not being inclusive, you are being exclusive. Expansion of consciousness is the product of inclusivity, not exclusivity. Many people on your planet, when they begin to learn certain spiritual and metaphysical principles, will actually take an old style route, an old style approach to the idea of absorbing and learning about these metaphysical principles, and will actually contradict their ability to truly absorb these principles in the most positive way by thinking that as they expand or explore the further reaches of their consciousness, that certain other things ought not to occur, that it's got to be either this or that. In other words, if you are in your mind sometimes believing that you are exploring the idea of the expansion of your consciousness, you often set up ultimatums within yourself. Well, if I am experiencing the idea of the expansion of consciousness, then I have to experience it in a certain way. And if I experience it in another way that might be more reminiscent of the way things used to be, then something is wrong. I'm not expanding. It's a this or that ultimatum. I either experience this or I experience that, and there can be no blending of the two. There can be no meeting of the minds. There can be no blending or melding of these ideas, because from the perspective you have set up, from the perspective you have created, it is an exclusivity issue, and there is only room for one thing and not room for another, and both cannot coincide, cohabit the same space at the same time. Nevertheless, they actually do, in a manner of speaking. Since all things exist now, in reality, even though different frequencies of things may make them appear to be exclusive or excluded, on the fundamental level, they all exist in exactly the same space at exactly the same time. Everything that exists now. It is this and that, 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 and that. Now, granted, certain expressions of this and that may be more or less relevant to what you immediately need to experience. And again, we are not eliminating the idea of focus in this. We're not talking about the idea that you must somehow experience such a multitude of things all at once that you become confused and befuddled. It's not what we're saying. We understand that because of your linear space-time reality, you are going to experience things one at a time. And in that context, yes, you are using the idea of exclusivity and focus and limitation to your benefit to keep you focused in a certain experience and have no other experience that interferes with it. But that's not what we're saying. The this and that we're referring to is that within any one exclusive given experience, there are still a number of ways to view that experience more holistically, with a broader perspective and a broader understanding that allows you the opportunity to examine all possible options that are relevant to that single experience. It's just that when you use the mechanism of limitation and exclusivity to help you focus through the ego structure on a single experience, you often, out of habit, unconsciously continue to apply the same exclusive principle within the single experience, and that's where you often create difficulty and negative limitation for yourselves. because you think you have to continue the same process that brought you that single experience, that limited your focus down to that single experience in order to get the full understanding of that experience. And that's where the true positive paradox comes in. Once you have focused down in a manner that creates or attracts to you a particular single experience at any given moment, in truly understanding what that experience is all about and how you can use it to maximum effect and maximum benefit, you actually have to expand back out, expand your focus back out, broaden your focus back out within that single experience in order to fully benefit and fully extract from that single experience all of the things it has to teach you, all the opportunities it has to provide for you, all the doorways it has to offer you, to open for you, to allow you to truly have a full experience of that single event. This is where balance comes into play. Balancing the energies of limitation and expansiveness in a very, very playful, very open way that will allow you to focus when you need to, allow you to be exclusive when you need to, allow you to use limitation when you need to benefit yourselves, while at the same time allow you to use the expanded point of view, the holistic and holographic point of view within that single experience to reap the benefit of everything that that single experience has to offer to you. Again, this is the point of power in paradox, is learning that it's this and that. And here we see a perfect example of using the idea of exclusivity and inclusivity simultaneously in a this and that scenario instead of a this or that scenario. It is thus then an art form of a sense to learn how to focus down and expand out. Focus down and expand out. This is similar to what we have spoken of with regard to the idea of visualization and manifestation. Visualization and manifestation. In the sense that in visualization, you are focusing on an image, bringing it down to a particular, specific, exclusive, representative image of the reality you prefer. And once the energy builds up, the excitement builds up as a result of that particular symbolic visualization, thus then the idea is to just hold on to the energy state and let the vision go and expand back out into a completely non-focused state of being. In a sense, surrendering the vision, as you say, and no longer insisting that that particular vision has to come true in order for the accurate and appropriate and relevant manifestation to occur. Because as we have said, the higher mind knows how something is truly going to happen, but the physical mind does not. So in letting go of that limiting, specific, symbolic visualization and just allowing the energy to remain, you are thus then expanding back out into the idea of letting the higher mind bring you whatever the actual representation, whatever the actual manifestation is of the energy state that the visualization generated within you, reflected to you. So it is a similar idea, similar art form of focus and letting go, focus and expansion that we are talking about now with the idea of the this or that and the this and that situation and scenario. This or that brings you down to the idea of a state of being where it does not seem that other routes are possible to allow manifestations to occur, to allow things to transform. While this and that is always allowing, always leaving an opening for something to occur that is unexpected, always allowing you to examine and explore more options and more opportunities that you may not have previously been able to consider. Because again, remember, the other principle that we have talked about is that you cannot perceive the vibration of something you don't already contain first. You have to be on a certain wavelength in order to perceive the things that are relevant to that frequency. And if you allow yourself only the this or that scenario, the this or that limiting focus within any particular individual scenario, then you are truly making it very, very difficult, very improbable that you will be capable of seeing other avenues, other routes, other opportunities that you could take in order to manifest certain states of being. But when you approach this single event, any single event, at any given moment that you have created with your positive limitation, your positive exclusivity, and thus bring into that positive exclusive moment the expanded point of view of this and that there are many ways to allow this to manifest, many different routes by which this could manifest, then you will allow yourself the ability to actually perceive those opportunities, to perceive those doorways, to have the inspirations come into your imagination from the higher mind that allow you the ability to see what the path actually needs to be to allow the manifestation that is reflective of the energy state you are creating in that single eventful moment, allowing the manifestation that is truly representative of that energy to manifest. And again, please remember, manifestation is not attracting something to you from somewhere else. Everything already exists right here, right now. You already, in a sense, have it. You already, in a sense, are it. Manifestation is simply being in the energy state that allows you to be able to perceive, to make visible to you what is already here, that is now invisible to you. But you already contain it. You already have it. It doesn't come from somewhere else. That's why it's so important to watch the definitions and start transforming all the definitions that are part and parcel of the this or that scenario into this and that kind of energy, so that you can start realigning your definitions, such as this definition we have just discussed of manifestation. Because when you operate from a this or that perspective, it creates the idea of separation, and thus creates the idea that, well, something is either here or it's not. It's over there or it's not. Instead of understanding that it may appear to be there and it is also here. You need to start linking, unifying these kinds of definitions within any given individual scenario, within any individual given concept, in order to really begin to understand how to simplify your relationship with creation and help you understand the nature and structure of existence, in that everything is one thing and every moment is one moment. So when you understand it from that point of view, it's no longer this or that, it's this and that. Everything is there and everything is here. Everything is here and everything appears to be there. It's all the same idea. It's just a different perspective. And by having the this and that perspective, it will allow you to understand that. It will allow you to see the bigger picture that includes all of those positions, all of those descriptions, all of those definitions that work for you, instead of the this or that scenario that starts excluding other definitions as being impossible, improbable, not capable of actually occurring, not capable of being relevant, and not capable of being perceived by you as another way to look at the nature and structure of your event as it is framed against the nature and structure of existence itself. We will assume that at least some of what we are saying is clear. And we will assume that if any of what we are saying is not clear, you will attract whatever you need to understand it more clearly through the synchronicity in your life, because you know that even though there may be only certain things you know now, You will know more in the next moment and the moment after that you have created, because it's all the same moment and contains all the information. All right here, all right now, all accessible to you when you allow yourself to be in the moment. You will thus then perceive more of what already exists in the moment. This and that. Now, let us discuss this art form, this balancing act, from a completely different point of view, a completely different analogy, and hence the subtitle, the reflection and the spectrum that leads to the idea of reflection. And when we talk about the idea of spectrum, let us truly use the terminology in this analogy that has to do with the idea of frequency and vibration as it relates to the visible spectrum of light that you are so familiar with in your physical reality experience. What you call the rainbow, what you call that spectrum, what you call those colors, primary and secondary, that make up all of your experiences in perceptibility in the physical realm in terms of your vision, in terms of your sight. Let us use this analogy as a permission slip, as a tool. Permission slips simply being any tool, any technique, any ritual that allows you to give yourself permission to be more of who you are. This permission slip, this spectrum of reflection permission slip, we now simply share as an analogy to appeal, shall we say, to different parts of your brain, different ways in which many of you absorb information and lock it in and make it real for yourselves. Imagine, if you will, now in any way, shape, or form that works for your imagination, the idea of what you call the three primary colors of light. Red, blue, green. Yes, I know, some of you say, wait a minute, isn't it red, blue, yellow? In pigment, it is. But in light, it is red, blue, and green. We will not get into why at the moment. That's another discussion. Nevertheless, you understand that as prisms exist in your reality, and you see the white light, the unbroken light coming through that prism and breaking down into the spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, you understand that by recombining those individual colors, those individual frequencies, you can once again blend them back into white light, which contains all frequencies of light. That's why it appears to be white to your senses. So let's look at this idea of the balancing, the focus, from this colorful perspective. Imagine thus then that you have this white light that represents the idea, shall we say, of the ideal self, the higher mind, unbroken, unfiltered, pure, beautiful, a homogeneous white light. As thus then it is filtered through the prism of your personality with its beliefs and its emotions and thoughts, it is broken down into the spectrum of your physical reality experience and all the details within it. But for now, in this analogy, we will keep it simple and just work with the idea of the three primary colors, the red, the blue, the green. Now, as many of you already know, when you start to overlap these colors, if you will imagine perhaps spotlights or circles of these colors, if you start to overlap some of them, you will get the secondary colors. If you overlap the idea of the red with the blue, you will get the violet. If you overlap the idea of the red and the green, you will get the orange. If you overlap the idea of the blue and the green, you will get the yellow. And of course, in pigment, if you mix the idea of the blue and the yellow, you will get green. But going back to the light, imagine thus then that if you were to bring these three circles of color closer and closer and closer together, and as you start to see these circles intersect with each other, creating what you call the vesica piscis of the secondary colors of the violet and the yellow and the orange, you will thus then, as these circles come closer and closer together, recognize that when they finally touch, all three touch in the center, they will blend back into the idea of white. Because you have now included all the frequencies within that spectrum, within that rainbow. And they will blend back to white. So now imagine that as this white light originally starts out from the higher mind and filters itself through the prism of your personality and creates these primary colors of red and blue and green, that in each primary color, there are nearly an infinite number of shades of red, an infinite number of shades of blue, an infinite number of shades of green. Some of them may seem to be very subtle differences. Some of them may be very profound differences. And of course, some of this has to do, again, with the idea of mixing these three colors, these three primaries, in different ratios, so that you're bringing in the secondary vibrations to create the different shades. But what we can focus on here is the idea that as these three primaries, red, blue, and green, exist, and exist in different shades, it is the different subtle shadings that when brought together and overlapped in the center will not exactly create white, but will create a shading of white, an off-white, perhaps even all the way down to a dull gray and maybe even a black. The idea being that when the three primary vibrations of red, blue, and green altered, shaded, tinted by different ratios of the secondary vibrations, they will, when coming together, not actually completely reconstitute the original white light. In this analogy, these shadings are different belief systems that are out of alignment with your true self, not in alignment with the pure frequency of your true being. When your beliefs are in alignment and these spectra are in their pure vibratory frequencies, then when combined, they will recreate that pure white light. But if there are definitions within you that are creating these colors to be tinted and shaded in ways that takes them out of their primary frequency, then when you combine them, when you attempt to combine them, you will find that you will not get the pure white light. You will be off kilter, off frequency, off the vibration of your true natural self, as is being given to you as a guidepost from the higher mind. That pure white light is your guidepost, your marker for the vibration that represents your true natural self. So, as we have discussed many times the idea of the vibration that is representative of your true natural self in terms of a bodily enactment being what you call excitement, passion, love, creativity, joy, the idea here is that we are now creating a color analogy of this idea. And since we have also talked about the fact that definitions and beliefs that are out of alignment with your true self will dampen down the idea of the excitement, will filter the excitement into what you call fear and self-doubt, here too, in this analogy, you will see that the filters of beliefs that are out of alignment will alter the pure vibrational colors of the primaries into different tints and shades so that when they combine, they will not create the pure white light. So the idea here is to use this analogy, to use this permission slip tool as a visual guide to aid and assist you in finding out, in discovering, in exploring, and researching, and investigating what your belief systems are all about. Because if you understand that the pure white light of the higher mind is, in a sense, your guidepost, that that's what you're attempting to match the frequency of by acting on your excitement, in using this spectrum analogy, this prism analogy, this reflective spectra permission slip, you may actually begin to get the sensation in a more refined way, in a more finely tuned way, of whether or not you are harboring definitions and beliefs that are out of alignment with your true self by actually looking at the tints and the shades of the three primary colors and seeing whether they are truly, truly pure, and in bringing them together, whether they are truly creating a pure white light. Now, you can use it this way to examine the beliefs that you have, and you can also use it as a permission slip to bring yourself back into alignment if you believe, if you feel, if you experience yourself as being out of alignment, if you experience the idea of the tints and the shades and the variations that are not the pure frequencies of the three primaries and are not creating the pure frequency of the white light in the center when they overlap, you can use the idea of the three primaries in their pure form and use the idea, envision the idea of them overlapping to create the pure, bright, pristine, vibrational white light as a way of guiding yourself back to the vibration of your true natural being. And in so doing, you can see the tints and the shades leaving, changing, shifting. And as you use this permission slip in this way visually, you may actually find that it actually helps bring some of the unconscious out of alignment belief systems to the surface of your consciousness. It actually can bring them to your attention by using this particular permission slip technique of the spectrum of reflection. By actually bringing them with your imagination into alignment and creating the tints to shift, then the things, the components, the secondary vibrations that caused the tinting, that caused the shading may stand out. This is how you use exclusion in an inclusive way. You are now actually creating an exclusion of the secondary frequencies, but you are including them in the process of helping you discover what the true primary frequencies are for you. That allows you to experience the true white light at the center of the overlap. So this again is the paradoxical exclusion and inclusion of these frequencies to guide yourself into the discovering of what belief systems you may be harboring unconsciously that are taking you out of alignment with your true natural self. This can be very powerful as a permission slip for many of you, especially those who are visually oriented. And especially because color, for many of you, has such a strong, strong vibratory attraction. You can help yourself create these visualizations, if you wish, through the utilization of your technologies. Much of the technology that is utilized in your holotope with regard to your light-emitting diodes do emit very pure frequencies of light, and you can use these to guide you. Use the pure red, use the pure blue, use the pure green lights to guide you. See them coming together in such a way as to create the pure white flash, the pure white vibration. Use whatever techniques your imagination so desires, because this is your permission slip. And you are tapping into vast resources of the collective consciousness with respect to the idea of color frequency when you do this. And you are gaining support and being given support by the collective consciousness with respect to the idea of these vibrations, because they are very fundamental and ensconced within the collective consciousness in a very profound and deep and anchored way. So use them. Use them because they are there. All the support is there. The support of the whole is there. The support of the whole for the individual is there in those frequencies, in that light. Because remember, fundamentally, you are made of energy. You are made of light, so to speak. It is one of the first expressions of your consciousness in physical terms. What we term electromagnetic energy is one of the first physicalizations of consciousness in the process of crystallizing your consciousness into a more solid seeming physical reality experience. Use that light. It's the first level of your crystallization. And it can act as the crucible to unlock you from the deep-seated crystallization and allow you more flexibility, malleability, fluidity, plasticity in your rearrangement of your understanding, in your rearrangement of your definitions of yourself, of your being. And always as you go through, using these permission slip, or whatever permission slip your imagination attracts to you, which works best for you at any given moment, always remember, it's this and that, not this or that, within any given exclusive focus of circumstance and situation. Look for all the doors, all the windows, all the paths, all the options, all the expressions, all the perspectives, all the points of view, the big picture. Look for the big picture and all the ways it can be understood and all the ways it can be defined and all the ways it can be perceived and all the ways it can be experienced, even while this is all an experience of one single exclusive thing. Look for all the things that are relevant. Create other things to be relevant that you believe are in harmony and in alignment with your preferred vibration of who you prefer to define yourself to be, of who you know you are. Use the this and that principle in this way, and it will serve you in a very powerful, very broadening sort of way. At this time, each of you become comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in and exhale. And allow this information to sink in whatever way, shape, or form will work best for you. And you don't have to have an intellectual comprehension of exactly how that's going to work. Remember, the physical mind does not know and is not built to know and thus is not capable of knowing how something is going to happen. The higher mind is. Let the higher mind do its job. Let it sink in the best way, knowing that when the higher mind knows the best way for this information to sink in, it knows the best way, and the best way includes the physical mind, includes all aspects of your physical experience. It includes everything. The physical mind is a focus. In a sense, the physical mind is the excluder. The higher mind is the includer. And you need to allow them to work together in harmony and balance so that you can take advantage not only of where it is appropriate to experience the this or that scenario, but also at the same time where it is appropriate to overlap it with the this and that scenario of the higher mind. Because that's the higher mind's perspective. Everything to the higher mind is always this and that. Even though more often than not to the physical mind it seems only to be this or that. Do not get caught up in those conundrums. Do not get caught up in those mazes of confusion. That it's got to be this or it's got to be that or it doesn't make sense. It can make perfect sense being this and that if you simply find the balance point between the two. Allow yourselves the opportunity in your breathing and in your meditations and in your relaxations to focus on the idea of inclusivity and use it within your experience of exclusivity, so that you are not simply continuing on a path of exclusion and spiraling into the negative downward spiral that diminishes and diminishes and diminishes and diminishes your understanding and concept of yourself. Simultaneously with the exclusive focus that allows you the opportunity to have a physical experience, simultaneously have the expanded appreciation of inclusivity, of all that is, that everything is here and now, everything. And that even as you select, even as you choose one exclusive aspect, one exclusive point of view at any given moment, that does not mean that all the other points of view aren't there anymore. They are all there, all available to you, so you can shift and change any time you wish, any way you wish. And if you would but allow both to exist in that paradoxical center point of power, then you will be very easily capable of balancing both of those out, using both sides of the coin, and that is a state of being that will enrich you in unlimited ways. Take a moment, all of you, let this sink in. Take a deep breath. And with every breath in, you know that this is crystallizing within you, rewiring your brain to understand these things more efficiently. Because every single thought you have rewires your brain. Every single change is a total change, and you become a totally different person, literally, with every single change, because you are constantly shifting, moment to moment, billions of times per second, from one parallel reality to another. You're never the same person, never, never, never the same perspective, from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, billions of times per second. You are that fluid, you are that flexible, you are that plastic, you are that malleable, you are that free. So understand that all of the focus, all the limitation, all the exclusivity, all the this or that is always nothing more than the most fleeting of temporary manifestations. Because it is never the same at any moment, billions of times per second. So you are always in a balanced state of this and that, even while you're exploring the idea of this or that. Because this or that can only last for the briefest blink of a second. Because this and that is what you're using to propel you through the infinite series of parallel realities, each of which represent a this or that scenario. You're using them both as a mechanism to create the experience you call physical space-time. Because time and space are side effects of the shifting of your consciousness through a series of infinite parallel realities, billions of times per second. That's what time is. It's a side effect of that shifting. And you're using the mechanisms of this or that and this and that simultaneously to propel you through that series. Why do you do it that way? Why do you have the physical focus? Why do you have a physical experience at all? Not meaning to be flippant, not meaning to be in any way, shape, or form sarcastic. The real answer is, why not? All things are possible. All things that you can imagine exist. Physical reality experience is one of them. And thus then it is just as valid, just as valuable, just as important, just as equal to any other experience, any other way of experiencing. And as a higher mind, as a spirit, as an oversoul, parallel reality, as an aspect, as a reflection of all that is experience of space and time, in order to experience from that perspective and its mechanism of creation nothing in a unique way. Even as all that is imposes exclusivity on itself in order to know itself as all the things within all that is, because it has to impose exclusivity and limitation on itself in order to experience itself as an individual aspect of itself. But even as it does that, it still knows it is all that is. It includes everything that it is as equally valid, and by supporting and including everything that it is as equally valid, it has the capability thus then of experiencing anything that it is on an individual level in an exclusive way. These two things work hand in hand harmoniously to create your experience. They are not in any way, shape, or form truly mutually exclusive. You have to have both in order to have the kinds of experiences that you are having. But it is very important, if you want a harmonious experience, to use them both in a conscious way, in the same way that all that is does. You allow it all to be valid. The positive, the negative, all of it is perfect as it is. And while allowing it all to be valid, while allowing this and that and that and that to be valid, you thus then give yourself the power and the ability to focus and choose any particular aspect of this and that in order to experience this from that, and thus then actually delve into this or that, and give yourself the concept of choice. Choice. This or that allows you to choose whatever aspect of this and that is uniquely your vibration. And so this or that exhibits positive and negative attributes like anything. This and that exhibits positive and negative attributes like anything. But this and that is definitely geared mechanically toward inclusivity. And this or that is simply geared mechanically towards the idea of the negative in terms of exclusivity. Positive, negative, negative, positive, all in balance, all perfect harmony, all different aspects, different tools, different perspectives, different ways of having the experience of yourself as an individuated aspect of all that is, using both simultaneously to create the experience of space and time and physical life, and also to form the relationship more strongly with higher mind, spirit and soul, and oversoul self and source of all that is. Balance. 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 Breathe it in and exhale. And create a new atmosphere, a new understanding, a new reality vibration with every breath you take in and every exhalation. It is a new world, a new reality, a new moment of the same moment, a new perspective of the same moment. The only moment that exists. There is only one. Of the here and now, there is only one place, here, only one moment, now. And everything that you think is a different thing is the same thing from a different point of view. And every moment you think is a different moment is the same moment from a different point of view. This and that. This or that. Use them both to your benefit in whatever way you so prefer. Because it is up to you. You have the freedom to choose based on this or that, the freedom to choose whatever of this and that you so desire to experience. Allow yourselves to choose in freedom what is truly relevant for the unique individual aspect of creation. Each and every one of you was created to be. And remember, even though there may seem to be beginnings and endings within time and space are subject to existence, but existence is not subject to time and space. You are made of existence itself. You are made of creation itself, because there is nothing else to make anything from. Thus then, you are timeless, spaceless, you are here, you are now, and you are also the experience of then and there and forever, with no beginning and no ending, except the experience of beginnings and endings within time and space. But as an aspect of existence itself, you have no beginning and no ending, because those concepts are subject to existence, are created within existence, and existence is not subject to them. And ultimately, neither are you, because you are an expression of existence itself. Everything that you call a different thing is a reflection of you from a different point of view. Look deeply at the mirror. Look fully at the reflections. And bring to bear in your relationship with all the reflections that exist in your reality, in your experience, bring to bear both the exclusivity of this or that gives you the freedom to choose, and the inclusivity of this and that allows you to know that everything you see is you in a different form, is you in another parallel definition, is you in another facet of the multidimensional crystal of creation, of all that is. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. And let it out. And know that as you exhale, you are sending out, radiating out with every exhalation, with every heartbeat, with every thought, a new vibration, a new understanding that is far more harmonious, far more blended, far more in balance with the idea of this or that and this and that. And that this will sink in whatever way you need it to. You will be given the reflections. You will see the facets. You will see the shards of the mirror you need to see, that will contain the reflections you need to see in order to understand how to use this, how to have, how to know, how to be the relationship that you are with all that is, the relationship you are of all that is with itself. The spectrum of reflection, the colors of the rainbow, the infinite shades and tints of your frequencies, the white light, the pure, balanced white light of your true being. Breathe it in. Let it out. Breathe it in and let it out. Breathe it in and let it out. And be refreshed, and be alert, and be awake, and be new. A new you. Truly new for the very first time, a new perspective. Even though it all exists, even though the structure of all that is always exists, it's the experiences, the points of view that are new. The combinations, the infinite combinations of that same structure that are new, and that are representative of the perspectives of each and every one of you. The beauty, the harmony, the palette, the riotous shades of colors that each and every one of you are, that form the spectrum of reflection for all that is, and of all that is, by all that is. You are all that is, and it is you. Now, we are going to do something a little different in this transmission. It is, generally speaking now, timing for you to go and have your break and refresh yourselves and ponder and let these things sink in. Soak them up. Let them sustain you. Roll them around in your mind, on your tongue. Absorb them. Taste them. Savor them. This or that, this and that. The balance point. The power of the balance point. Sit with it. Lie with it. Be with it. Be it. After your refreshment break, at the end of the second part of this transmission, we will guide you in a deep holotope meditation to help crystallize these concepts within your consciousness. But this will be the only pre-recorded segment of this transmission. After your refreshment break, we will simply begin with live interactions of questions and answers until such time as it is time and timing for the holotope meditation. Because there are many things that need to be addressed and many discussions that are important to have at this timing between us in a live context for things that are to come in the crossing of the threshold that is now fast approaching as you approach your year of 2013. Enjoy your break. We will resume this transmission with live interaction of questions and answers afterward. Our unconditional love to you, Ha-tu.
I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We will, first of all, take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this transmission to occur in this manner on this day. Once again, each and every time this is co-created between our respective civilizations, it forms a stronger link, a stronger bridge between your world and our world, and what we have called the association of many worlds. So we thank you for the opportunity to strengthen that link, strengthen that bridge upon which we can one day cross to meet each other in the middle. And that day is not too far away as you count time on your planet. Toward that end of accelerating and strengthening the time of contact between our worlds, we once again invite you to explore your own inner world more deeply. For the more that you learn who you are, then the better it will be in the sense of being your full self, certainly more of your full self when we meet, so that we will know more of who you are, and that you will know more of who you are when you meet us. For we will come to you as fully as we can. And if you are, thus then at that point, not coming to us as fully as you can, we want to make sure that this will not be detrimental for you. So we help to prepare you to discover more of yourself, to explore more of your own universe, so that you can be more integrated, more holistic, more empowered, more creative, more loving, more alive, and that you will know more definitively who and what you are when we meet. Now, we have set up this particular transmission for the idea of discussing what is euphemistically called in your language your soul blueprint. What this generally means is that when you choose to be physical, as many of you know, you will come into physical reality with a general theme that you have decided to play out. It does not always mean that you decide every single moment of your life, or that you are destined to only do certain things. That is not what the soul blueprint means. Although you can create some specific incidents, events, encounters in your life. You can design them, set them up ahead of time for that to come to fruition. You can do that, and sometimes do that. But not every moment, far from it, is laid out ahead of time. You leave yourself an opening throughout your life to make changes as you go, depending upon how much you learn, how much you recognize, how much you realize, how much you integrate. You leave yourself the opportunity at every moment to take the new information and decide where you wish to go, what you wish to do with it, what you want your life to be from that moment forward. The general theme you may have set up for yourself prior to this life will be played out, but the theme is so general that it does not in any way, shape, or form restrict you or limit you in terms of the multitude of the kinds of ways in which you could express or experience that theme. And especially now, at this time upon your planet, many of the themes that you are exploring in these lives are all about waking up to the fact that you have the freedom to choose what you want your life to be, how you want to experience it. Now, we remind you once again that the most important perspective, the most important attitude to have toward your physical reality experience is not to look at how you are doing based on what's going on out there, but how you are doing based on how you respond to whatever's going on out there, no matter what it is. Always remember, there is no out there. There is only here. There is only you. Physical reality is an illusion, a mirror, a reflection. You can use it as a tool in some senses to reflect what is going on within you, what your beliefs are, what your thoughts are, what your emotions are, what your attitudes are, what your definitions are. You can use physical reality as a reflection, but it is not the first step in gauging whether or not you have made a change. The first step in knowing that you have changed is that you respond differently than you used to a situation that may look the same as it did before. As we have said, all situations and all circumstances do not have built-in meaning, and they can serve double duty. The meaning you give it is the effect you get from it. So the first step in knowing your reality has changed is in knowing you have changed with respect
to your experience of reality, even if it looks the same as it did before. If you can then respond differently to that reality than you did before, then you know the change is real, the change is within you, the change is owned by you. And when you respond differently than you did before, in a manner that is more of your preference, then, and only then, does your physical reality truly begin to reflect that change in other ways. But remember, it doesn't have to necessarily look much different. The key is whether or not you are getting a different effect in your life than you did before. Because the very same situation, with all the same props and all the same people behaving all the same way as they did before, can still allow you to generate a completely different outcome, a completely different effect, a completely different energy than you did before, just by the fact that you are relating to the situation differently. Because you say you have changed and will respond differently. Because you are now not the same person that you were before, literally. When outer reality needs to look different, it will, as a reflection of the change. Whatever part of the change it needs to reflect differently, it will. But don't go off the outer reflection. Always go off your response. That will determine the difference. And that will determine the outcome. And that will determine the effect. Now, this personality idea that we have discussed many times, and which we will discuss in greater detail this time, is only your outer focusing device. Your personality is really nothing more than a window or a prism through which your consciousness creates the experience called physical reality. Now, that experience is, of course, actually only taking place within you. Again, there is no outside. Nothing out there. Nothing. Just a reflection. Just as there is nothing itself of the image in the mirror, you understand there is really nothing of reality outside you. It is all taking place within your consciousness. But what the personality allows itself to perceive is often built upon not only the beliefs and definitions you have been taught in life to hold most true, to buy into most strongly, but also based upon what is technically called the soul blueprint. What you brought into this life, in a sense, as a theme to explore. So you will always look at everything that happens through the personality. You will always look at everything through that general theme. You will experience it through that general theme. When you choose to be physical and go from a non-physical state into a physical state, in a sense what you do is a kind of crystallization. It's like going from being steam to being water to being ice. You freeze yourselves in a type of pattern. This pattern then is referred to as the soul blueprint. What you brought in with you in general, that you will explore in this life. Now, many of you have similar themes, as we said, in this life, because you're all exploring the ability to be aware and awake of the fact that you are free to choose your reality experience. Whereas in your history, in the past, as you say, You were not aware that you had this choice, that you had this freedom. And even many of you alive on your planet today are unaware that you have this choice, that you have this freedom to choose your life to be what you wish it to be. Many people on your planet still believe that life happens to you instead of happening through you. But it does not happen to you. It comes from you and reflects back to you. And we will get into more understanding of that later on in this transmission when we discuss in depth what we have called the reality generation circuit. The actual mechanism, the circuitry by which you are manifesting your physical reality experience. But first, the blueprint. What is it exactly? What is it made of exactly? What goes into the recipe of your soul blueprint? You have been given some diagrams, some charts that help to illustrate and illuminate this concept. If you will look at the one that shows you the idea of your history, all the different pathways, all the different consciousnesses, all the different lifetimes, all the different experiences of what you call your past that you have brought to your present and will take with you into your future, you can see that you are, as a soul blueprint, shall we say, made up of quite a lot of different kinds of frequencies of energy. Quite a lot of different frequencies of experience. Many of you have begun to become aware in this life of your connections to other times, other places, other experiences, other lives, and so forth. And often wonder, how does this relate to this life? Now, a little bit of an aside before we continue with this. When we have discussions with many of you, often, many people will refer to the idea of these other connections by asking a question, well, Bashar, where do I really come from? Well, of course, the direct answer is to the person actually asking the question is, well, you really come from Earth, obviously, because that's where you are right now asking the question from. But we understand that when they ask the question, where do I really come from? Where do I originate from? We understand what you mean, but we wish to point out that you originate from everywhere, all at once and nowhere. Here and now is where you come from. But the idea is that when they ask, where do I originate from? What they're actually asking is this. What other places and times and lives and experiences am I strongly connecting to from this life? Because that's what you're actually doing. In any given life, because they all exist simultaneously, past, present, future, all exist now. All your so-called past lives are all going on right now with this one simultaneously, in much the same way that all the different programs on your television that you could watch at any given moment are all there at the same time, but you only get the one that your channel is tuned to at any given moment. So it is with this. So it is with the structure of existence. You, the you know yourself to be here on earth, are experiencing this earth life. Other variations of your consciousness are experiencing other lives in other places and other times now at the same moment. But they are separated by the fact that they are different frequencies, in much the same way that television and radio programs on your planet are separated by the fact that they are different frequencies. But they're all there at once. They all exist at the same time. But frequency and resonance is the key. So, from any life, in any life, you form attachments and connections
two other lives going on simultaneously that have relevance to this life in terms of the kind of experiences that are being had in those other lives by those other versions of you. Because you know that the experiences they are having are relevant to some of the experiences that you may be having in this life, and, as you say, vice versa. From those lives, they may be tapping into other lives, including this one, from which they can draw upon your experiences. So, I'll give you an example. In a life that you may call a past life, you may be having a great deal of despair and hopelessness in a particular experience that you are having in that life. Then suddenly, for apparently no reason, hope and inspiration hits you, and you realize there is a way out of this. I do not have to lose hope. I can find my way through the dark to the light. And you don't know where that came from or why that hit you, but suddenly you just know things can get better. Well, sometimes that information, that knowledge, that certainty may have come from your guides, may have come from spirit, may have come from a variety of places, but it also may have come from an experience that you're having in another life that shows you there's a way out. Maybe coming from this life now, where you are exploring the idea that you have the freedom to choose your reality. And just that knowledge alone may leak into the other life, may be drawn upon by the other life to know, yes, there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Yes, I don't know where this knowledge comes from. I don't know where this certainty comes from. But I now know I'm not alone. I now know I can do what I need to do. And that inspiration may be coming from you. You may be sending that certainty with your experiences in this life to another of your lives to let them know that they can rely on your experience here and now to let them know they can improve their experience there and then. You are cross-connected to all your other lives, and the ones that stand out are the ones that have relevance for this life. And those are the ones that stand out energetically, vibrationally. Those are the ones that you often refer to when you ask the question, where do I come from? Where is my origin? The strong vibration. Now this also extends to the idea of other dimensions, other civilizations. Some of you say, well, I know I come from the Pleiades, or I come from Arcturus. Again, no. You come from Earth. You come from Earth. You may have lives going on in the Pleiadian systems, in the Arcturian systems, simultaneously, yes. Your oversoul, from which all your lives extend simultaneously, like the fingers on a hand. The oversoul may have lives going on Earth, in the Pleiadian systems, in the Arcturian systems, in the past, in the present, in the future, on different kinds of planets, in different kinds of dimensions, all at once. So you don't come from there as if you were there and now you're here. That's an illusion, linearly. But you may sense, as you gain more and more awareness of who and what you are, and gather more information of the total self together, you may suddenly become aware of the fact that you have other lives in other places simultaneously. But because you're used to thinking in a linear before and after way, you may phrase the question, well, I must come from there because I'm not there now. And you put it in a linear framework. But all you're actually saying is you are awakening to the fact that you have cross connections to other things going on simultaneously and can draw upon that for whatever you wish to use that energy for in this life now. And so, getting in touch with the idea of your soul blueprint, this aspect of it,
The recipe, the combination of all these different frequencies, of all these other experiences that are relevant to this life here on earth is one strong way to get a handle, as you say, on exactly what your recipe is, where you are cross-connecting to, what kind of energies you are using in this life, in whatever manner you wish to use them, in whatever manner you wish to apply them. Being aware that you have connections to other realities like that is not about disconnecting from the earth, wishing that you could go back to that reality. No. The reason that you are where you are is because you chose to be where you are in order to act as a conduit to bring that energy to earth and manifest it in whatever way is relevant to the earth experience, to allow the earth to transform. Because every single one of you that are on earth now, in some way, shape, or form, chose to be on earth now because you knew that you would be going through a transition and a transformation at this time in your planet's history, and on some level, in some way, you wanted to participate. You wanted to be a part of that because it's a very exciting place to be right now. As you say in your language, it's where it's happening. It is one of the most highly focused places right now that we are aware of in creation for the idea of transition and transformation. It is one of the few places that has gone as deeply into the dark as you have, that we are aware of. And thus then, when a planet, when a civilization, when a collective consciousness can allow itself to experience such a great degree of darkness and yet still find its way to the light, that is special. That is powerful. And believe me, you attract the attention of many other beings from many other dimensions to see how you did it, how you're doing it. Because that's exciting, because that's creation in the making. That's raw creation, going from absolute dark to absolute light. That's creation in a nutshell. So thank you for your strength, for your commitment, for your willingness to go through this transition. It's a powerful thing to have done, and it shows you, just by being where you are, it shows you how powerful you actually are. So never lose sight of that. To be where you are on earth at this time means you are powerful beings who knew what you were doing when you chose this reality, and even though you have forgotten that you knew what you were doing, you still know what you're doing. One of the ways you have allowed yourself to co-create a way to remember that you knew what you were doing is through your creation of us. Bringing an opportunity to you to remind you, which we are happy to do, to remind you of how powerful you are. So we thank you for the opportunity. We thank you for the gift you have bestowed upon us to allow us to be those that remind you who you are. Thank you for allowing us to be your alarm clock and help you wake up. Ding. Time to wake up. Time to be more aware of more of who you are, so that you can, with open eyes and certainty, live your life with full conviction, responding as you want to. Responding as you prefer to, no matter what's going on in your reality. And getting the effect from that response that you deserve, that you now know you deserve to get. Regardless of what anyone else is doing, regardless of what anyone else's intention toward you may be, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. You matter. What you say matters. Becomes matter. Energy to matter. Non-physical to physical. The effect comes from your willingness to have the conviction to know your relationship to whatever you experience, whoever you experience, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstances. While you are on earth, for a while, you will still experience many people and many situations that are not reflective of your preference, because that's the nature of earth. Many people will make the assumption
that just because they are changing themselves, they will suddenly no longer have to ever interact with anyone who is not of their frequency. No. You are still on the earth. It's still going to be a mix of things for a little while longer, but that's okay. It still gives you an opportunity to see in absolute example what you do and don't prefer. It always gives you a way to gauge where you're at relative to the things you see that you know are not who you are, who you prefer to be, who you prefer to deal with. So use that as an opportunity. Don't think there is something wrong just because, well, I've changed myself and I'm a more spiritual person, so why am I still getting people in my life that are not acting in a spiritual way? Shouldn't I be better than that? Shouldn't I be above that? Shouldn't I be beyond that? No. The idea, first of all, remember, is that you're on Earth. That's what Earth is all about. Polarity. Right now, it's still all about the idea of different examples of different ways of doing things, dark and light. And remember, the idea in integration is that you have something to integrate. If it's all just light, there's nothing to integrate. So, becoming more of yourself is also becoming more aware, not only of the light, but also of the dark. The more aware you become of the light and the dark choices, then the more you can choose openly and clearly what you prefer. It's not about excluding, it's about including. It's about knowing that you have choice still to go into the dark if you want to, but now it's knowing you don't have to. But that doesn't mean you won't see the dark choice. It means you'll become more aware of the dark choice. But now it means you become aware of the dark choice just as a choice, not as a given, not as an absolute, not as something that has more power over you, just as a neutral choice, like any other choice. It's just a choice. Hey, come into the dark. No thanks. Not because you're afraid, just because you know it's not your preference. It's just not your preference. But in order to know it's not your preference, you have to be aware that it's a choice you could still make, and you can make that choice at any time. If you couldn't make that choice, if you were not aware you had the choice to go into the dark, you would not be a fully empowered being to make a choice to go into the light. That's the whole point. So don't think something is wrong because suddenly you are still finding yourself interacting with people who are not of the vibration of integrity. It's giving you an opportunity to decide whether or not you still want to play that game or whether you wish to make another choice. That's all right. They do not have any power to affect you as long as you do not agree to be affected. So that's why it's so important to respond differently as if you have changed no matter what's going on in the situation around you. And the way you get more in touch with the idea of who you are is by now beginning to really deeply understand your soul blueprint, what living this life is all about, what the theme is really all about, which is the freedom to choose no matter what. And allow yourself to move with conviction and commitment in that direction, but not in avoidance of anything. There is no avoiding. If you wish to grow and expand, you cannot avoid, because there is nowhere to avoid anything. There is nowhere to go. There is only here and now. You cannot run away from anything. You must invite it in and accept it as a part of who you are if you're really going to have the freedom to choose who you want to be. It's all about inclusion and integration, not exclusion and segregation anymore. That's the old pattern. That's not you anymore. If it was, we would not be having this conversation. So take that as a sign that it's time to know more of who you are. Be more of who you are and accept the dark and the light that you have and use it in a positive way. Just because you're aware of the dark doesn't mean you become the darkness. It just means you're aware of more of who you are, and that's a positive thing. That's a positive thing. So now, looking at this chart and looking at the idea shall we say, of a soul path. I understand this is going to be in a somewhat linear framework, but it's easier to describe that way. Just understand that everything I'm saying coexists simultaneously right now. But nevertheless, for ease of discussion, look at the soul path through time on that chart. Starting with the idea simply of creation and the exploration, bit by bit, of specific themes as you consolidated and consolidated and consolidated and crystallized the family group of souls that you are in a more specific and more specific course of events. And having many lives in these different realities, different systems, experiencing and expressing yourself in all these different places, and way more than are on that chart. There is no room on the chart for all the places you're really having experiences, but they are the ones that have a high degree of significance and relevance for you in this life. The ones that many of you have woken up to recognizing you have a connection to, such as the idea of the old Orion systems, the Pleiadian systems, the Arcturian systems, the Sirius systems. All these ideas that you are connecting to have relevance to what's going on Earth. And the idea that also, as a soul group, many of you, in coming into and incarnating in your present solar system, actually had many of your incarnations first on the planet you now call Mars, when it was capable of supporting life as you know it, a long time ago. And those incarnational cycles brought in other ideas, other experiences, and added to your overall understanding of yourself as a soul group and as individual souls within it, individual spirits within it, individual personalities within it, and your relationship to that overall family. And then, when natural disasters occurred upon Mars and rendered it uninhabitable, you recognized that Earth was now available in that sense and ready for inhabitation by souls, for incarnational inhabitation. Now first, as you can see on the chart, there were other life forms, as you know, upon your planet. The idea also of what you call the dinosaurs and so forth, and other extraterrestrials, some of which are known to you, some of which are unknown to you, but one that is known, referred to as Anunnaki, that came to Earth and experimented with genetic material, used their own genetic material, their own DNA, to create a new race, using the idea of dinosaur DNA to create now what you recognize as a reptilian race. But this did not exist or inhabit the Earth for a long period of time. Went elsewhere, was taken elsewhere. But then for other reasons, also eventually, once a natural hominid species upon the Earth arose, then again, Anunnaki and others took their genetic material, blended it with the genetic material of the hominid species, and a human form was created that could then, in that sense, be inhabited incarnationally by your soul vibration. It was of a resonance that was capable of then relating to your soul vibration, so you could incarnate in the human form upon the planet. Now, all these influences, so to speak, act like a recipe. For in the incarnations upon the Earth, you still brought with you all these different vibrations, all these different experiences. Pleiadian, Arcturian, Sirius, Orion, neutrals, other dimensional beings, wanderers, observers, grays from parallel dimensions, and so forth, into the mix. And that is why you have such a very rich experience upon the Earth, and why there is so much variety upon the Earth, because each of you is like your own little pie chart with different degrees
of these vibrations in different proportions and ratios to one another. All of you have all of those vibrations, but in varying proportions and degrees. So let us say, for example, you all have some energy that is Pleiadian in nature, but one of you may have, let's say, 1% of a slice in your pie chart, another may have 3%, another may have 5% or 10%. All of you have the energy connected to the Sirius star system, but one of you may have 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 20%. It depends on many different things about what kind of theme.
If you don't get out ahead of it, you're going to have a bumpy ride because...
But you all have all those energies to varying degrees in your pie charts. In that sense, then, the soul blueprint can be looked at as a kind of pie chart of all these different frequencies, all these different energies. All brought to bear now to a focal point in the present. All cross-connecting. All activating. All waking up to their proportionate varying degrees of connection. To allow you to have awareness to whatever degree it is relevant for you to have awareness of these different frequencies, to use these energies in whatever way is relevant to your theme. And your theme is connected to the idea that we have talked about on your planet for so many years, and that is your excitement, your joy. Whatever is the strongest excitement, whatever is the strongest joy you have at any given moment, is the direction in which you will find your themes of exploration, is the direction that will best support you in the exploration of your themes in this life. Themes perhaps being the idea of deservability, of the issue of creating freely from choice. Can take many different sub-themes. Sub-themes of exploring abundance, sub-themes of exploring relationship, sub-themes of exploring different levels of fear. All sorts of sub-themes within the overall theme of discovering who you really are in this place and time that adds to your understanding of your relationship to creation and your relationship to the transformation going on Earth at this time that is so very intensely important for your experience as a soul. Because it is so unique, because it is so rare to go from such darkness to such lightness. You have taken on an incredible task, and an incredibly enriching task, an incredibly enriching education, that when you go through this transition as you are, takes that experience and radiates it to the rest of creation, so that the entirety of creation is enriched by your experience. And you going through this experience gives others in creation more opportunity and more possibility of experiencing creation in a richer way. Gives them more understanding that more things are possible to experience, because you have experienced things that some people on some planets would have heretofore thought were impossible to experience. Surely no one can ever possibly experience the idea of actually being disconnected from creation. Surely that's not possible. Where could that ever happen? How is that even possible to happen? Well, I know this place. It's called Earth. They actually believe they are not connected to creation. They can actually experience themselves as if they are disconnected. They can actually believe they are not unconditionally loved. No, surely not. You jest. That's not possible. How can anyone actually have an experience that they are not unconditionally loved? Well, they've found a way, clever beings that they are. They have found a way to use, listen to this, they have found a way to use the unconditionally loving connection they have with creation. They have found a way to use the unconditionally loving connection to make it seem as if they are not unconditionally loved. How clever is that? Because the only way they could actually have an experience of being disconnected is to actually be connected and create the illusion of disconnection. And why would they want to do that? Because they have discovered that by actually being willing to experience the illusion of complete disconnection from creation, and yet then find that connection again, it's a unique and extremely potent and powerful way to experience the actual creative act. Really? Well, how much longer are they going to do this? Not long. They've actually almost reached the end of that cycle of separation and are now remembering that, in fact, they are connected, remembering, in fact, that they created the illusion of disconnection, remembering, in fact, that it is an illusion, and are waking up to the fact that they have never really been disconnected, but have been playing the disconnection game in order to gain insight and experience into what it actually is to be in the moment of the act of creation itself. Because if they didn't experience it that way, they would not be able to slow it down enough to actually have the experience of the act of creation. Things would just be created, or they would not be. There would no be in between. There would no experience of in-betweenness. They would not have the experience of the act itself. And so they cleverly created this idea of time and space to such a depth, to such a degree, that they can actually slow it down and experience all the details of the act of creation. Really? Fascinating. Glad it's them and not me. Yes, but you see, they were very bold, and we honor them for being so bold, because now that they're doing it, that means anyone can do it, and now that they have done what to you seems impossible, and now you know it's not, now you know nothing is impossible. Nothing. If they can do that, anyone can do anything. And believe me, when they finally waken up, and they finally remember, and they finally realize exactly what they've done, oh, watch out. Nothing will be impossible for them. I do not mean that we will give them big egos, but they will know. They will now know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, as a race, as a family group of souls, as a portion of creation, they will know with absolute certainty nothing is beyond you. Nothing is impossible. They will have learned what it is to really see themselves through the eyes of God. And they will have done it in an incredibly unique and powerful way. And that will be a blessing to all of existence. Well, we're very interested in seeing this. Yes, well, come along. There are a lot of people watching. I've saved you a ringside seat to the event of the millennium. The waking up of planet Earth. The realizing of its true potential. Not very much longer now will they be playing this old game. Give it a couple of decades, maybe 3 at the most, and they will be fully on a new path, a new understanding, truly living out the full recognition of what their soul blueprint was all about, aiding and assisting, bringing all this energy to Earth, funneling it all down, radiating it out, transmitting it out to the Earth to make it possible for those to decide what reality they want. And in making that choice, then experiencing that reality. And eventually, only that reality.